broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Nikki Turpeaux, and I'm here at SHOT Show 2014 at the Excess Sights booth. And my guest right now is going to be Mr. Wes Goss. So welcome, Wes.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I've been in this industry for several years. I am a 20-plus year vet of the U.S. Army, as well as a 20-year veteran of law enforcement. And I make my living, keep the bills paid, running around the country, teaching and lecturing, and trying to promote good, efficient firearms usage for self-defense. Kind of like what you do for the most part.
Yeah, we both do this for a living. Yeah, I left corporate America to do this, and it's one of the best decisions of my life.
Yeah, it seems a little crazy sometimes, but yeah, I don't look back.
Yeah, any career can be crazy, I think, but at least we get to have fun and work with a lot of great people.
I do occasionally catch myself saying, well, if I knew then what I know now, I'd probably still be writing tickets.
Oh, okay.
Because there is some craziness, but I do enjoy what I do.
That's good. Very good. Well, what are some of the exciting things that you've seen so far at SHOT Show this year?
Well, actually, the mob is just here, and it's just kind of getting collected. I haven't really seen a whole lot of new products yet. It's really been bouncing from appointment to appointment. But some of the stuff I'm hoping to see, I'm hoping to look at some of the new pistols that are out. That's really my biggest forte between the precision rifles is handguns. I'm looking to look at some of the new accessories that are available, and hopefully I have enough free time to actually pick some of those up and play with them a little bit.
Yeah, were you at the media day at the range yesterday?
I was, and we were anchored to the Sharps Rifles booth, so we were doing demonstrations of the new 25-45. I didn't get to see a whole lot of new products while I was out there, but I'll tell you, it was a lot nicer this year than the 60-mile-an-hour winds and 28 degrees last year.
Did you have the 20-degree Arctic gale force winds?
No, this year was fantastic. A little windburn, but other than that, it was nice.
Yeah, that's good. Give you a little color. It's not bad.
I need color.
Well, tell us a little bit about maybe a recap of your light sights and laser tour that you did with Excess Sights this last year.
Absolutely. That was a neat initiative. It kind of started out kind of an idea/experiment. It took us to 19 host agencies, law enforcement agencies, over the course of 9 months, which to a lot of people sounds pretty easy to do until you start looking at the fact that many of those were back-to-back events. There were places we just couldn't train because of the weather conditions, so there were periods of time that we just couldn't cover. So it made it very hectic. It took us from Alaska to Hawaii, all up and down the eastern seaboard. I think the grand total was 1,101 students, 236 agencies that we were able to have access to. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah. Is there a favorite state that you got to travel to?
No. Honestly, what you find out is that the job itself, the trials and tribulations are literally the same everywhere you go. A lot of police officers think, well, it's really bad where I'm at, or it's really bad where that guy's at. We all do exactly the same thing. We all have the same problems. We have the same issues, and it was able. For me, it was like bridging a gap. A lot of agencies that didn't have contacts, we were able to kind of make those contacts for them too.
That's very good.
Yep, absolutely.
It's always nice to work with other people. You find out in different demographics in different regions, there might be one or two things that might be a little different, but for the majority, I think, like you said, there's a lot of things that people have in common, a lot of the same concerns and challenges.
The concerns and challenges, usually what we found was the biggest issue that was different was mostly environmental. What's good for Fairbanks, Alaska isn't what works in Phoenix, Arizona, even though they have the same internal problems and law enforcement issues. So their challenge in training is training for that environment.
Right.
And a lot of times in our world, your world and my world, a lot of our constituents don't necessarily take that into consideration. It's just one way, very dogmatic. Well, if you're wearing multiple layers of clothing and it's sub-zero outside, that's much different than me. I mean, I live in Arizona. I wear flip-flops and shorts 9 months out of the year, so it's a completely different environment.
Sure. Yeah, I'm originally from Houston, Texas, so
there you go.
It's very similar.
Absolutely.
You read it a lot. Well, on Firearms Insider Radio, we kind of focus on the heart of the people of the industry. We talk a little bit about what they do and what they make, what they sell, but really my desire for the program was to want to get to know the people in the industry. And so tell us something outside of your bio about you, maybe when you first started to learn how to shoot, or how you were kind of drawn to this as a career path.
the getting drawn into it as a career path. I grew up in a firearms oriented family, hunting, shooting, not necessarily competitive, but just enthusiasts in Northern California, which by today's standards it sounds a little odd because California has become kind of the anti-state. But back in the 70s and the 80s, California was very much the Wild West. It was a different kind of environment, different kind of state, different kind of attitude. When I went in the military, I went through the ranks at about the same time frame that everybody else does, but I took to a lot of the ideals that they taught me in that time frame in the military and leadership. And when I became an NCO, my number one job as a sergeant or an NCO was to train other people, and I really enjoyed preparing people for their next job or their next role or their next mission. And I think that's really what brought me into this. Is I had an aptitude for the firearms industry, and I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy not getting up and talking about myself so much, but getting up and trying to help somebody understand something better. And I think that's really what drew me into it.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to realize, is that the firearms industry is not just about the guns and the ammunition and the gear and the equipment and this visceral type of aggressive kind of mentality.
Yep.
That there's a lot of really great people who have really great intentions, and I think at the heart of it all is that we want to help each other, we want to help people become better, become safer, become more proficient at what they're doing that may cost them their life. And I think that humanizing our industry is so much more important, especially these days with all of the misinformation and misinterpretation that you see. So tell me, was there a defining moment that you experienced when you absolutely knew that this was the right thing for you to be doing?
It's really hard to lay it down to one individual moment or another. My introduction into the industry was I was still a full-time deputy sheriff, and I only live 90 minutes from Las Vegas, so it's kind of selfish of me. I can come to the SHOT Show, but I make it up here, and I found that I was accepted very easily and very quickly by a lot of the manufacturers that I was drawn to. I made a lot of great friends in a very short period of time, and a lot of them were a lot of notable characters that have been in our industry or are in our industry, and I've got a lot of good solid mentorship from them. So just that kind of being brought into the industry from that aspect, I think, has made me more appreciative. You talk about our industry, and you're on one side of what you and I do, and I'm on a different side of it. But a lot of people don't realize that those two sides intersect constantly, and because there's usually that us and them kind of idea. There's those of us that carry guns as a matter of a profession or a career choice. There's those that carry them as a matter of choice. And there's some that don't carry them at all but like to go out and shoot. The teaching methodology and the mindset behind that, they mesh. And a lot of people don't think about that. They try to keep their distance from one side or the other. And I think that's a huge mistake.
Yeah, and I think too that there's kind of a disconnect in the industry when it comes to training or even products, is that it's so segmented. But I think there's a lot more commonality than people realize, and that's another thing that you find that everyone's so compartmentalized sometimes. And so when I had a chance to meet you and we'll be working together in this next year, it really excites me because I like to learn more about the different areas of the industry, not just defensive shooting and training for civilians, but about law enforcement, about the military community, because all of those things have strengths, and if we can play off of each other's strengths in those areas, it just helps us to cross-train our individual groups that we're working with.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, and as a husband and a father, I don't have any sons. I have two daughters. They're both shooters. One's in the military, but one's at home with us, and she helps run the business. My wife, she enjoys shooting, so I have a vested interest in that side of it as well. And again, a lot of folks that you and I deal with, they don't see it that way. It's the operator look that everybody's got to have, and you know what. A lot of people confuse me with that as well, because my primary market is law enforcement and military, but it doesn't mean that I don't work with people like the same people you work with, and I think there's a lot to learn from one another, and there's a lot to play off of, and a lot to complement one another that a lot of people just don't take into consideration.
Right, yeah, I think you're right too, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes in the industry I find that there's like this rice bowl mentality, that everybody wants to protect their own little niche, but I think it's kind of the opposite is how we should look at things, is that you have strengths, I have strengths, and if we work together, then it makes the collective whole stronger.
well, I might learn something from you too. I mean, that's the key too. Is that, I mean, you do something totally different than I do. I may never have thought about it, you know, and vice versa. And how do I learn? I'm just a big student. I'm not really, as an instructor, I very seldom, I never would place myself on a pedestal. I'm just an advanced student. I have an opportunity to interface with other instructors, so I hear and learn things, but I'm just learning all the time myself.
Yeah, and every now and then you have this little light bulb moment that goes on, and you think it's a common concept. Everyone teaches it, everyone trains it, but I've never heard it presented that way.
Absolutely.
And that makes so much more sense, and it's so easy for people to understand. So
Exactly.
I think it's important that we always continue learning and sharing information.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, tell me some of the things that you're looking forward to for 2014.
Being busier than I was in 2013. We're kicking the tour off again. We've shortened the number of stops, but we've picked up some very substantial metropolitan locations, new locations. Atlanta PD, we're in Minneapolis, we're Maricopa County. So we've got some large metropolitan agencies, different locations in the United States. We actually have some military that are sponsoring us this year. We're actually going to be on a Marine base. They're actually bringing us in. Looking at some new facilities, and we've got some new partners in the industry, so we're going to be bringing some new tools and some new equipment to the forefront of our classes, and I'm excited for that because every year it just kind of brings us some new faces and some new personalities, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, about how many appearances do you think you'll be making this year?
On all told,
Life Size
Life Size will be 10, and it's 10 over 10 months. It isn't going to be one a month because again, Arizona, most of the country, August, nobody wants to go out on a range,
right.
even though they should. Which is kind of hypocritical that we should be training environmentally. But so we've got a few that are compacted together. But I'm looking forward to it. We've got 10 with that, and then our own training schedule. We've got some new training facilities that we're teaching off of. So regionally, our programs are going to be available in other parts of the country as well.
Very cool. Very good. Now, how much training do you do outside of the Life Sites and Laser Tour? How busy are you? Tell us what a typical week is like for West Nos.
On the road, a typical week is class to class. Usually we try to bring at least, to maximize time, at least 2 for a week, so we maximize the week while we're there. Usually within a month, I'm usually on the road somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks a month, which means all the honeydews at home don't get done. They pile up. But
you get to come home after 10 months and you have a 90-page document of honeydews left.
a great big bowl, fish bowl full of you need to do this. I have a dog that misses me greatly, but some of the stops my family gets to travel with me too. My wife will say she'll go to the places that she thinks are interesting. So if it's someplace she hasn't been, most likely she'll be there. And she helps do the administrative side of things while we're on the road. But we stay pretty busy, and we don't teach the same thing all the time. So we'll be one location, we may be doing a carbine program. We'll be in another location, we may be doing a shotgun class. We may be somewhere else also not doing a firearms-related program at all. It might be a pure tactics program. And then total departure, we might be teaching some sort of breaching class to a SWAT team somewhere. And so I've got to get my mind readjusted. So once in a while, it's like being in different time zones. You forget where you're at.
Every day's a new adventure.
A goldfish going around.
Some days you wake up and you're like, where am I?
Well, as a matter of fact, I've had that happen. Wake up in a hotel room and not know.
Did that happen this morning?
Exactly.
Yeah, that happens to me too. I travel quite a bit, and yeah, there's some days when I wake up and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where am I today? And what are we doing? Okay, it takes me a minute to get my head on straight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess people don't really realize that when you travel around this country and you're training and you're working with so many different disciplines and different people, that it's kind of taxing on your brain and your body as an instructor. And I think that when you show up in front of the class and you got your A game and they're watching what you do and they'll express their admiration for, wow, this is great. You love what you do and we admire your hard work and everything, but they just don't realize on the back side of that screen all of the stuff that it takes to be able to stay dedicated, stay committed, and be exhausted, but get in front of them and put your A game forward.
Yep, well,
it's a commitment.
It's a huge commitment, and there's a huge amount of logistical support that goes into it. A smaller class that we might do that's, maybe it's a pistol program we're doing somewhere. It's a single pellet case that gets shipped in. But then we're doing a basic SWAT school or an advanced SWAT school, and it's
like bringing the circus to town.
Right.
You have all this equipment and boxes and crates.
Right, exactly. And then this year I did pretty good. We went 10, 11 months, knock on wood, no illness, and all of a sudden, at the end of the year, right before the holiday season, and there was a ton of last-minute end-of-year commitments, it hit. So, you know, you deal with that. You got the flu you catch, you got all the colds you catch, the flight delays you deal with, the transportation and shipping delays.
Traffic. Louisiana always gets me. I always have to say great thanks to the state of Louisiana for giving me traffic hiccups.
Well, you're originally from Houston. There's no place other than the Houston airport. There's weather on the coast.
Oh yeah.
Get comfortable. You're going to sit in the Houston airport for a while.
Absolutely. Well, are there any other things that you would like to share with the viewers about what's going on in your world,
I wouldn't know where to start. I'm looking forward to this. Is going to be a good year, not just necessarily for us, but I think for our industry as a whole. I think that our industry has gone through a lot of ups and downs over the last couple of years. We're not like any other industry where we're not constantly trying to identify ourselves or determine who we are demographically, and I think we've got a much more positive grasp of who we are, at least at our level, because we're the folks that deal with the end user, not the folks that sell products to the end user. And I think our interface, we've seen a growth. I think we've seen people that are legitimately interested, concerned, and they're actually looking for that education that we've been advocating for so many years. And what I would hope to encourage is that buyer beware mentality. You know, do your research about who you're getting a class from. Just don't look for a lot of flash.
Right.
You know, you may not get the experience you're looking for. And both you and I know people that we've definitely never sent anybody to, but we both know people that are probably twice as many people that we would advocate absolutely take that guy's class or her class, because it's going to be a fantastic time. And that's another part about working together with people is it gives me the opportunity to openly advocate and support somebody else's program, because I think that shows some good solidarity for our part of the industry.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that you are exactly right, where we play a unique role as an intermediary between the end user and the people who create the products and ammunition, the guns, the holsters, all of that stuff, because for a person who might be new to shooting or might be wanting to take the training to the next level and they're looking for solid equipment recommendations and ammunition recommendations, what firearms are great in determining what they're going to use it for and what works best for that. It's a big challenge for them, so I think that we have a very important role to play in helping them kind of navigate that. And when it comes to training, you're exactly right. There's a lot of really great instructors out there, and then there's some that, you know, there's a lot of flash but not a whole lot of substance. And you know, in this economic, you know, condition that our country's in, people want their money to go far. They want to make an investment in something that's going to be a worthwhile investment, and they want to see some substance and some quality. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that people should do their research, do their homework about trainers and instruction, and really invest their money wisely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nothing you want to take lightly. I mean, if you want somebody to take you to the range just for the fun of it, then that's fine. But if you're looking to go to a class and actually learn something, bring something back, something that you're going to be able to take and use and grow from, I think you need to. I mean, you wouldn't buy a pair of shoes without trying them on. You wouldn't buy a car without taking it for a test drive.
You know, or just because your friend said this is the one you need.
Right. Exactly. And then come prepared for those classes too. I mean, we've had people show up in classes for an advanced class that is heavily promoted as an advanced program, and they've never picked up a firearm before in their lives. And unfortunately, because of the nature of the class, I have to, you know, look, I've got to cut you out of this class. Maybe I can bring you into something else, or you know, whatever. But people need to look at things and come to the most appropriate training. You know, and there's no diminished, dehumanizing part of going to a basic class. If you need that basic instruction, everybody's had to start somewhere. Get it, because there's a certain amount of liability with these tools, and safe use and safe application. It's good for all of us, and it's a good place to start, and it gets you kind of on that growth pattern.
Yeah, and even if people feel comfortable with firearms, I encourage you to go back to a basic class and relearn those fundamentals. I think reinforcement is always good.
Yep.
And if you're with a different instructor, it's like we said earlier, you can hear something that's a common concept, but having it presented again in a different manner by someone else helps you to learn it in a different way, or to reinforce what you
remember things you forgot. I did a Gunsight 250 class 4 or 5 years ago, I've been up there. I live close enough to Gunsight. It's another opportunity. And it was for an article we were doing, and I hadn't taken a basic handgun class in years. And I felt like a goof because there were so many things that I stopped doing that were great things. And plus, half the instructor staff that was on board up there were also guys that were my academy instructors. So I was the whipping child. So I was the one they got to make fun of. But it was a great experience. And I go up and I do that on a regular basis. I go to somebody's basic class, advanced class. I mean, it's a good way to relearn things. You forget things.
And I think at the end of the day, as long as you're training, as long as you're doing something, it's a good day on the range.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And so there's no wasted time, no wasted effort in going back and trying something that you've already done, doing it again to reinforce good habits, because we both know that the only thing that the really good shooters do well are the fundamentals. So that's definitely a great place to get some extra practice.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
All right, Wes, can you tell the viewers how to reach you or how to find out more about you?
Absolutely. The easiest way to find out about me and my guys and my staff is to go to www.khybertraining, Khyber training, all one word, .com. And most of our programs are there, including information on light sights and lasers, and on our sponsors that help us get to where we need to be every year.
Yeah. And on that note, I'd like to thank Excess Sight Systems for letting us be here in their booth today. It's the first official day of SHOT Show 2014, and my guest, Mr. Wes Doss, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me here.
And you're welcome to come back anytime. I'll have you on the radio program too in the future, kind of check in mid-year and see how things are going for you.
Absolutely. Well, I hope we cross paths this next year too.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. So stay tuned. We're going to have more interviews coming up from SHOT Show 2014, and make sure that you check in at firearmsinsider.tv for some more interviews, both audio and video, coming to you live from SHOT Show this week here in Las Vegas.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.